So this is the mixing applicator device. This would be the equipment that you will receive if you're going to be making these applications on your own. This is the end with the splines and the rebar attached to the little spray head. And then that spray head just follows this tube up and there where it connects with the pump. So this is our typical setup when we're going to go make an application. We've got the John boat with an electric trolling motor, marine batteries to power the motor, and then also the pump. And then this is just a little weed sprayer pump that just attaches to those batteries with the alligator clips. Has a little switch, an on and off switch, and then we will show you kind of how you attach that to the spray bar here in a second. But this is essentially the equipment that you will receive if you're going to be making those applications on your own. So once we have the motor and everything attached, we have the batteries in the boat, then we just take the products, which we transfer into 2.5 gallon jugs, stick that in there with us. Then we'll put the rest of the applicator equipment together. So this is kind of the next step. So once you have all the gear in the boat, then you'll take this end with a quick release or disconnect. You'll stick it into the one end of the pump, the out end of the pump. Just goes in like that, secures it. And then we've already attached the alligator clips to the battery. A separate one typically than what you're powering the motor from, but I mean, we've done it with powering it off of a single battery if you have to. And then we have all the rest of the chain and everything straightened out. Make sure it's not tangled up. And then this end has got a carabiner on it. We've just installed an eye bolt through one of the gunnels, or whatever you call these fancy things in the boat, to make it easier for us to attach, take on and off. Then once we're ready to get started in this treatment area, we're going to put it all over the side. Again, making sure it's not tangled up, like this one is. Then you just take the chain over the side. And then you're basically ready to start making the application. The last thing we do prior to starting is we stick the business end, the feeder pipe, down into the CBX ProOxidizer. And then Kevin hits it to make sure that we've got a spray fan is not impeded by any kind of crystals or rocks or junk that may have gotten picked up. So when you see that it's got a good fan spray, we're good to go. We just drop the rest of it over the side, and then we can start following or start making the application, where Kevin is just going to kind of transit back and forth over the water. And you'll notice that you're going to start to see from behind us sort of 3 lines of bubbles that are coming up. So what we're doing is scarifying the black layer. In this case is a leach field that's plugged up. So all the organic material is being kind of mixed. And at the same time, we're applying that CBX ProOxidizer just above where the material is getting kicked up, so that as it settles back down, it takes that biostimulant back to the bottom with it, and it just continues that process. So as these jugs get emptied out, we'll just take the tube and take it from one end to the other. Then you can either take the excess in this bottle and add it to the one that you're drawing from, or if it's just a little bit, you can slowly draw it over, dump it into the water over the edge. Still going to get mixed up by the action of the prop as we go over it. It's not quite as good, but it's better than just dumping it in. So as you're going back and forth, you can see the bubbles that are following behind us. Some of that is just basically designating where the product is coming out, where the spray bar is, and those the splines and the pieces of chain. but it's also a pretty good indicator. You'll see and notice where all of the material that we kick up is coming from. It's right in line with that. So you just kind of go back and forth. Not necessary to get every square inch, because over time it'll start to have an effect, because every time you come to make an application, you're rarely going to go in the same lanes, so to speak. So over time, after a couple of applications, you will have scarified quite a bit of the bottom, and that's ultimately the goal, is to just try to get as much as possible. Because the other thing that we've noticed is that you'll see activity even outside of the areas where you're actually, the chain is making contact with the sludge blanket. Good with the pump. So when you get to the bottom of the last bottle, stick it back down into the water and then pump water up through it. Even though you're not using technically clean water, you just want to flush all the product out so that it's not going to stay in the bottom of the lines. Some of the product could create crystals, theoretically, if you don't. Plus this helps to just flush any kind of impurities out. And then when you're finished and you wrap things up, we'll show you here at the end, you want to just kind of clean it out before you put it back in the boat. So when you're all finished up with the application, you want to just pull the chain up. And again, depending on what you're treating, this is a leach field, so we're not wearing Tyvek suits or any kind of protection. This water is fully treated. We're just trying to scarify and reopen the leach field. And so as you get up, then you'll turn the pump back on just to finish spraying it out. And all you're spraying out is just water, trying to drain the line out. And as you can see, it's still spraying, it's pretty good, so there's not a whole lot of junk that's got caught up in the filters or in those the tips. So when you've got it pretty much all flushed out, you just turn the pump off, and then you just pull it up. And you can see it kind of collects stuff that's on the bottom. Here it's mostly, you know, weeds, some leftover rags, that kind of stuff. Then you just get it up, you put it back in the and then let it dry out when you get back to wherever your warehouse or wherever you're storing it, and then you're good to go for the next time.